So I'd like to talk about sexual abuse, childhood sexual abuse. And I want to talk about it in terms of how I got to it, because I didn't understand it. I didn't know what it was that I had, or that it even happened to me. And my journey. I hope that what my journey can help you, because there is nothing worse than suspecting or not knowing, or just living with something so absolutely fucking disgusting. That's all I can say. And I have absolutely no compassion for the people who do it, in the same way I have no compassion for people who have AIDS and decide to sleep with everybody and spread it. So I went through a very bad divorce, and I started supposedly on the path. The path being, I started to do meditation. I kind of woke up and thought, well, how did this happen? This absolute catastrophe, this tragedy, this destruction of kind of massive proportions. How did I make this? How did this happen? Because I didn't think I did anything. I think we just manifest within us, outside of us, what's already within us. And so I started on the meditation path, and I didn't like all the robes and all the ritual and all the kind of Westerners trying to be Japanese. It kind of, at one point, I was in an interview, and the guy said to me, you're responsible for the people that died in some shooting at kids school in Japan. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Another fucking crucifix? I gotta feel bad about someone? Like, no, I'm not responsible for what happened in Russia. So that was kind of the end of that. I mean, I felt bad, of course, but I didn't go out of my way to consider killing children. Are you fucking insane? Anyway, so, and not that I don't respect Zen and all the meditation practices, but I think ultimately meditation is something that one can practice on one's own. And as I said, you put two or more people together and you've got issues and power trips and ego shit and whatever. Anyway, so I continued to do the meditation at home, and it was really amazing. It helped to really sleep. What it does, it kind of slows down your mind. You begin to see, it kind of builds a platform for viewing what's going on in your head, because the way trauma works is that it's like an asteroid hits the earth and everything speeds up really, really fast, and you're just in it. You're kind of like cantering inside whatever it is that it produces, which is always, you're on the run, and you've got to make things work, and it's just, there's no time to consider what actually happened, because evolution needs you to survive. So I did it for about a long time, and on like was it 15th year of doing it, or 10th year, I don't remember, my son graduated, and that night I had what can only be considered to be an incredible kundalini. I mean, it was the middle of the night, and there's just surges of energy just going through me, just like I was dying. I'm like, fuck, I'm dying, just fucking dying. And it's just like, it kind of just was all over me. It was just like literally like surges of energy just pulsating through me. It must have lasted for about a few minutes, but in my mind it was like a long time. And you realize the next day, like, okay, that's it. It was a kind of kundalini experience. It was an opening. It was a massive opening after God knows how many years of doing meditation every day at home. But the next day it was a very surreal experience. I was in some other dimension. All sorts of things happened. One of the most clarifying moments was a dream, which basically had me in a car, in a cab in New York. I had to get out. I left my wallet and my phone in the cab, and I had to walk back to my house in England, which was all white other than the top. And the top, there was an evil monster that I had to face, and I couldn't. I was terrified of this monster, whatever it was. And so I sent out my cousins, and the monster then devoured my cousins. So it was very clear that I had to deal with something which I couldn't deal with. And so I'd started to learn about ayahuasca. I don't know how, internet, whatever. And I was surfing in Costa Rica, and I met this woman from Switzerland or Germany, I think it was, and she was like, yeah, you know, I took ayahuasca in Brazil, you know. I realized I was so selfish. I was very selfish, you know. And she went to a very sanitized, and I thought, no, I want to go to a place that's really raw, that's a real thing, with real charms. So I spent a lot of time just investigating, and I was terrified. I mean, when I'm telling you I was terrified, I was terrified. I did not want to do this. My biggest concern is called the Vine of the Dead, so I was like, I don't want to die. Anyway, so I found a great place, Temple of the Way of Light, organized, run by a Brit in the Amazon. And it was a monumental experience. The ayahuasca is dynamite. It basically dynamites layers and layers of our subconscious, which we keep hidden from ourselves. I think the most incredible and the most terrifying night was the third night, when I was literally moving on my own, and I was just being moved around by spirits. And then I had literally all the shamans started coming towards me, you know. It was like, oh fuck, what's gonna happen? And huge surges of energy just like pouring through my system. I was having an exorcism, and it was this little girl and this man who was clearly my father, and I was like, enough, you know. He'd made a contract with me, some sort of contract which had to be broken because it was obviously fucked up. I'm sure it was sexual abuse, and it was monumental. And then I could feel the spirits coming through me. Literally physically feel them. They're in your body, they're going through you, in your ovary. I was just in my ovaries, like I was being operated on. And yeah, so it was a monumental visit. But when I arrived back to New York, I couldn't land. There was this feeling of like, I can't land. I can't come back down to earth. Well, what she'd done was she'd ripped this huge opening into my kind of energetic field, and I didn't realize. And then one day I got this. I kept seeing this image. It was of an Indian overlooking a river on a promontory, and he was basically saying, I'm going to create a safe space for you, you know, to sit. I'm going to take care of you. So I'd meditated, as I said, for many, many years, and I'd been meditating. I thought, I'll put on the Icaros and, you know, see what happens. Oh, well. So when I put the Icaros on, I realized, okay, I was beginning to get a lot of downloads of information about being sexual abuse. You know, up in a balcony, down in I'm in a crib, there's a guy with his pants off. I mean, it was just revolting. It was my grandfather, an uncle, another uncle, my father. It was just, you know, this went on for like a long time. And then I had, you know, a lot of people show up, spirits and Indians, and I clearly have some connection to this native Indian family. And it went on and on for 2 years. Literally every day I'd get some other information and cleansing, and then towards the end of the summer I was getting this, like, my mouth was being shifted and moved, and it was, I didn't understand. I thought, has this got to do with the sexual abuse of these awful fucking people? And it was really powerful. And so then I booked to go to another ayahuasca retreat, which was Niwera, which was unbelievable. And it was like, you know, an upgrade. It was like, the first place I went to was like, you know, your tricycle, and now you're like, you're speed car racing. This was with the shamans in there, with their family. You know, you get a hut, it's 2 weeks, you get another plant to work with, as well as ayahuasca. And boy, did she give me the lowdown. So all the facial stuff that was happening was the unbelievably repressed anger I'd carried. Just so much anger. I mean, just beyond, like, countries full of anger, which I didn't even know I had. And then more abuse, but this time it wasn't just, I mean, that was physical, the temple. This was real time, reliving the abuse. And this isn't just a fantasy, it's not like some kind of vision or a thought. No, this is I'm on the floor and I'm smelling the breath of the person on my face, and I'm being raped at night. Someone's coming in and raping me, and then I'm being tortured, fucking tortured, and literally hands behind my back. They're hurting me. It's pretty awful, and that's what clearly all the anger was about. Now, one of the most interesting things about this is, this is so fascinating. So you think, I've seen this, and so therefore I'm furious, I'm angry, I'm just like, I can't believe this shit, you know, how the secret I had been asked and told to keep the secret. One of the things I realized was that I couldn't, the only way I could collapse all of this was that I had to convince my children, my little children. So your children, your energetic, your children are still alive within you. They don't disappear. Whatever happened to them, they're holding on to. So I literally had to convince my children to give these people up. That's how terrified, that's how disgusting these human beings were. That they created these contracts with your vulnerable, powerless little children, and they're terrifying of betraying them because they've made them believe that they care when they're abusing them. I mean, it is so fucking disgusting, and I would never have understood any of it or gotten to any of it were it not for the great Mother Ayahuasca. So it wasn't until the 5th ceremony that I literally, I mean, they tried to keep getting me away from them. In the last ceremony, I literally had all my children coming out of doors like they'd all been hidden, and they were kept by these fucking motherfucking abusers. So that whole story about having this lovely fucking family, it was filled with predators and fucking awful human beings. And what I'd built, the person I'd become, was in response to them. And so I literally had to beg the mother to kill this thing off, because this thing and this person that was created as a consequence of terror and abuse by the most disgusting human beings, both on my mother's family and on my father's family. And what I'd built was a human being that was terrified, and that was on the run, and that was scared, and that was basically camouflaged and in hiding because it was still protecting these disgusting predators. So I had no idea about this. I knew nothing about any of this. You know, I thought all my moves in my life had been somehow had a kind of a logical plan. But in fact, all of it was based on trauma, sexual abuse. I had which I completely buried, because they make secrets. They make you keep secrets. You know, like, don't tell anyone. I'm the adult, and if you want me to love you, you have to shut up. God knows, the torture. One of the things was also my father was a disgusting human being, tyrannical, vile, disgusting human being who beat the shit out of us when we were younger. Again, something which I vaguely recall. And in one of the ceremonies, I was literally, my brothers were crying, and I literally went up to him to challenge him, and I think that's when he beat the shit out of me, which I suspect was the torture that I was seeing. When I spoke to my mother, she's like, no, we must have all been under the same. I was terrified too. I don't know how you answer that. But anyway, the fact is that to not know, to have energies of children still terrified and still alive, they don't die. Trauma doesn't die, it compensates, it becomes something else. to actually go into the dark, to go into that place, to go find my kids. I literally had to become a mother to them and say, it's okay, you can leave. That's how awful it is. So if you think there's something wrong, or, you know, life doesn't quite work out, or, you know, I mean, listen, it's not a 7-step program, it's not a 5 easy steps. But ayahuasca is a dynamite to your subconscious. It's a mother. It's an incredibly caring, beautiful, loving mother. That brings you home. I mean, I can literally, it's going to be tough, but I'm going to shed all of this. You can't fix what you don't know. And your mind will never tell you. Because it's interested in survival. That's what evolution's interested in. It's not interested in going in and fixing. It just wants to keep surviving. So stay tuned for more info on sexual abuse.